13, we're reciting for today verses 1 to 19. And we have Gita Mataji doing the Sanskrit and Mitali Mataji doing the English. Are both of you all ready?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, Gita, are you ready? And Mitali Mataji, you ready? So let me share my screen. I'm going to put verses up on the board. Where is it? Just bear with me. Okay, not sure. All right. You can see the verses on the board?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. Gita Mataji, you are ready?
Yeah, I can see the Devanagari at the moment. Okay, great.
All right.
My Sanskrit's not quite that good.
All right. If you can also recite the invocation.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Chapter 13, verse 1. Arjuna Uvacha Prakritim Purusham Cheva Kshetram Kshetrajnameva Cha Etadveditam Ichchami Jnanam Gneyam Cha Keshava. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Idam Shariram Konteya Kshetram Eti Abhidyate Etadyo Veti Tam Prahu Kshetrajna Iti Tadvidah.
Arjuna said, "O my dear Krishna, I wish to know about Prakriti, nature, Purusha, the enjoyer, and the field, and the knower of the field, and of knowledge, and the object of knowledge." The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "This body, O son of Kunti, is called the field, and one who knows this body is called the knower of the field."
Verse 3. Kshetragnam chapi mam vidi sarvakshetreshu bharata kshetra kshetrajnayor jnanam yattaj jnanam matam mama.
Oh, have you finished, Mataji? Because I can't hear anything.
Yes.
Sorry. O Sarshana of Bharata, you should understand that I am also the knower in all bodies, and to understand this body and its knower is called knowledge. That is my opinion.
Tat kshetram yacha yadvikcha yadvikari yatascha yat sachayo yat prabhavascha tat samasena me shranu.
Now, please hear my brief description of this field of activity and how it is constituted, what its changes are, whence it is produced, who that knower of the field of activities is, and what his influences are.
Verse 5. ऋषिभिर्बहुधा गीतं छन्दोभिर्विविधैः पृथक् ब्रह्मसूत्रस्पदेश्चैव हेतुमद्भिर्विनिश्चितैः.
That knowledge of the field of activities and of the knower of activities is described by various sages in various Vedic writings. It is specially presented in Vedanta Sutra with all reasoning as to cause and effect.
महाभूतानि अहङ्कारो बुद्धिरव्यक्तमेव च इन्द्रियाणि दशैकं च पञ्चचेन्द्रियगोचरः इच्छद्वे सुखं दुःखं सङ्गतश्चेतनाधृतिः एतत् क्षेत्रं समासेन सविकारम् उदात्तम्.
The five great elements, false ego, intelligence, the unmanifested, the 10 senses, and the mind, the five sense objects, desire, hatred, happiness, distress, the aggregate, the life symptoms, and convictions, all these are considered in summary to be field of activities and its interactions.
अमानित्वम् अदम्भित्वम् अहिंसक्षन्तिरर्जवम् आचार्योपासनं शौचं स्थैर्यमात्मविनिग्रहः इन्द्रियार्थेषु वैराग्यम् अनहङ्कार एव च जन्म मृत्युजरा व्याधि दुःखदोषणदर्शनम् अशक्तिरनभिस्वङ्गः पुत्रदाराग्रहादिषु नित्यं च समचित्तत्वम् इष्टनिस्तुपपित्तषु मायुच्यन्यानि योगेन भक्तिरव्यभिचरणी विविक्तदेशसेवित्वम् अर्हति जनसंसदि अध्यात्मज्ञाननित्यत्वं तत्त्वज्ञानार्थदर्शनम् एतज्ज्ञानमिति प्रोक्तम् अज्ञानं यद् अतोऽन्यथा.
Humility, pridelessness, non-violence, tolerance, simplicity, approaching a bona fide spiritual master, cleanliness, steadiness, self-control, renunciation of the objects of sense gratification, absence of false ego, the perception of the evil of birth, death, old age, and disease, detachment, freedom from entanglement with children, wife, home, and the rest, even mindfulness amid pleasant and unpleasant events, constant and unalloyed devotion to me, aspiring to live in a solitary place, detachment from the general mass of people, accepting the importance of self-realization and philosophical search for the absolute truth. All these I declare to be knowledge, and beside this, whatever there may be is ignorance.
ज्ञेयं यत्तत् प्रवक्ष्यामि यज्ञनात् वर्तमश्नुते अनादिमत्परं ब्रह्म नासत्तन्नासद् उच्यते.
I shall now explain the knowable, knowing which you will taste, the eternal. Brahman, the spirit, beginningless and subordinate to me, lies beyond the cause and effect of this material world.
सर्वथा पनिपादं तत् सर्वतोक्षिशिरोमुखं सर्वथा श्रुतिमल्लोके सर्वमर्वित्य तिष्ठति.
Everywhere are his hands and legs, his eyes, heads, and faces, and he has ears everywhere. In this way, the supersoul exists, pervading everywhere.
सर्वेन्द्रियगुणाभासं सर्वेन्द्रियविवर्जितम् अशक्तं सर्वभृच्चैव निर्गुणं गुणभोक्तिर्च.
The supersoul is the original source of all senses, yet he is without senses. He is unattached, although he is the maintainer of all living beings. He transcends the modes of nature, and at the same time, he is the master of all the modes of material nature.
बाह्यन्तश्च भूतानाम् आचरं चरमेव च सूक्ष्मत्वात् तद् अभिज्ञेयं दूरस्थं चान्तिके च तत्.
The supreme truth exists outside and inside of all living beings, the moving and the non-moving, because he is subtle. He is beyond the power of the material senses to see or to know. Although far, far away, he is also near to all.
अविभक्तं च भूतेषु विभक्तमेव च स्थितं भूतभातिर् च तज्ज्ञेयं ग्राशिष्णु प्रभविष्णु च.
Although the supersoul appears to be divided among all beings, he is never divided. He is situated as one. Although he is the maintainer of every living entity, it is to be understood that he devours and develops all.
ज्योतिषामपि तज्ज्योतिस् तामसा परमुच्यते ज्ञानं ज्ञेयं ज्ञानागम्यं हृदि सर्वस्य विस्थितम्.
He is the source of light in all luminous objects. He is beyond the darkness of matter and is unmanifested. He is knowledge. He is the object of knowledge and he is the goal of knowledge. He is situated in everyone's heart.
इति क्षेत्रं तथा ज्ञानं ज्ञेयं चोक्तं समास्तथा मद्भक्ता एतद्विज्ञाय मद्भवावोयुपद्यते.
Thus, the field of activities, the body, knowledge, and the knowable have been summarily described by me. Only my devotees can understand these thoroughly and thus attain to my nature.
Thank you very much, Gita Mataji and Mitali Mataji, for that wonderful recitation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Vinti, Hare Bol.
So today we continue with our chapter, Nature, the Enjoyer, and Consciousness. Before we do that, we will recite Mangala Chanam prayers. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmalitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindubhyeva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivashadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Humility, pridelessness, non-violence, tolerance, simplicity, approaching a bona fide spiritual master, cleanliness, steadiness, self-control, renunciation of the object of sense gratification, absence of false ego, the perception of the evil of birth, death, old age and disease, detachment, freedom from entanglement with children, wife, home, and the rest, even-mindedness amid pleasant and unpleasant events, constant and unalloyed devotion to me, Aspiring to live in a solitary place, detachment from the general mass of people, accepting the importance of self-realization, the philosophical search for the absolute truth, all these I declare to be knowledge. And besides this, whatever they may be, is ignorance. So in this verse, Krishna is explaining the 20 elements of knowledge. At the beginning of the chapter, Arjuna had asked Krishna 6 questions. The first question is, what's Prakriti, material nature? The second question is, who is Purusha, the enjoyer? The third question is, what is Kshetram, the field? The fourth question is, what is Kshetragyam, the knowledger, the knower of the field? The fifth question was, what is knowledge, Jnanam? And the sixth question was, what is Gyayam, the object of knowledge? So this chapter started off Arjuna asking these 6 questions. And in this verse, or this series of verses we're studying, Krishna is answering the 5th question more elaborately. In the previous verses, Krishna has described what is knowledge. Is knowledge, Jnanam, is knowledge of the body, the soul, and the super soul. That constitutes knowledge. However, the real process of acquiring that knowledge is to cultivate saintly qualities, beginning with humility. So Krishna has described what is knowledge, and then he's described in these verses the process for acquiring that knowledge. And we've been studying, it all starts off with humility, because through humility we attract the mercy of the Lord. So in these 5 verses, Krishna has been describing the different aspects of saintly character by which the soul, Kshetragya, could disentangle himself or herself from the material body Kshetra and eventually attain freedom from the entanglement. So we've been reading over the last few sessions in more detail different aspects of this knowledge. So today we will finish these verses or this different characteristics starting off a detachment. So today we're going to go from the 13th quality to the 20th quality. And let's hope we can do it very quickly. So Srila Prabhupada explains detachment from family in the purport. And detachment from family is described as Putra Dara Griha Dishu. Putra means children, Griha means home. So this is very interesting because most of us, in one shape or form, are situated in a family life. So Srila Prabhupada writes, as for detachment from children, wife, and home, it is not meant that one should have no feeling for these. That's a relief, isn't it? They are natural objects of affection. But when they are not favorable to spiritual progress, then one should not be attached to them. The best process for making the home pleasant is Krishna consciousness. If one is in full Krishna consciousness, he can make his home very happy because this process of Krishna consciousness is very easy. One need only chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Accept the remnants of foodstuffs offered to Krishna, have some discussion on books like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, and engage oneself in deity worship. These 4 things will make one happy. One should train the members of his family in this way. The family members can sit down morning and evening and chant together, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. If one can mold his family life in this way, to develop Krishna consciousness following these 4 principles, then there is no need to change from family life to renounced life. But if it is not congenial, not favorable for spiritual advancement, then family life should be abandoned. One must sacrifice everything to realize or serve Krishna, just as Arjuna did. Arjuna did not want to kill his family members, but when he understood that these family members were impediments to his Krishna realization, he accepted the instruction of Krishna and fought and killed them. In all cases, one should be detached from the happiness and distress of family life, because in this world, one can never be fully happy or fully miserable. So nicely explained here. And the gist of what Srila Prabhupada is saying, when Krishna is in the center of family life, then family life is conducive for development of Krishna consciousness. But when Krishna is not at the center of family life, then one needs to reconsider. In the least, if one is in a situation where the family members are not conducive to Krishna consciousness, then one can execute one's duty, but not be attached to that particular family situation. And Prabhupada gives very practical instructions on how Krishna can be made the center of one's family life. Prabhupada, in this paragraph, chants the entire Hare Krishna Maha Mantra twice. And that we can take as a clear indication. There's a famous saying, the family that prays together stays together. And the Krishna consciousness twisted that same phrases, the family that chants together stays together. So Prabhupada says, chant Hare Krishna, accept the foodstuffs that has been offered to Krishna, discuss books on like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, and engage oneself in deity worship. If the whole family can be engaged in these 4 simple activities, Prabhupada says, it will make the family happy. And this is so simple activities. It only requires some training and some commitment, especially commitment and direction from the parents or the elders of the family. And this process of Krishna consciousness is so nice. And Prabhupada quotes the example of Arjuna and those family members that were not favorable to Krishna consciousness. He rejected and he fought with them and he killed them. So Prabhupada explains these principles in great detail in many aspects of his teachings. It's not difficult to grasp, and every one of us, as far as possible, we should try to bring these aspects, these 4 items into our life. And then Prabhupada says, then the home becomes Vaikuntha. There's no need to renounce. There's no requirement to renounce. Then Prabhupada moves on to the next quality, which is Nityam cha samachittadvam chitatvam esta nistopa patishu. Even-mindedness amid pleasant and unpleasant events. Very, very interesting one. Let us read what Srila Prabhupada says about this. Happiness and distress are concomitant factors of material life. One should learn to tolerate as advised in Bhagavad Gita. One can never restrict the coming and going of happiness and distress. So one should be detached from the materialistic way of life and be automatically equipoised in both cases. Generally, when we get something desirable, we are very happy. And when we get something undesirable, we are distressed. But if we are actually in the spiritual position, these things will not agitate us. To reach that stage, we have to practice unbreakable devotional service. Devotional service to Krishna without deviation means engaging oneself in the 9 processes of devotional service. Chanting, hearing, worshipping, offering respect, etc., as described in the last verse of the 9th chapter. That process should be followed. So Prabhupada starts off by explaining that happiness and distress is just a common fact of material life. They said the moment we are born, there is one verse in the Shastra says, the moment we're born, stamped on our forehead is the amount of happiness and distress we are due to receive in life. So a devotee, or one who is in knowledge, one who is truly in knowledge, he remains equipoised amid pleasant and unpleasant events. Understanding that this happiness and distress, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Matra Sparsha tu Kunteya, Sitoshna Sukha Dukkada, Agama Painos Nityas, Tams Tataiva. No. So Krishna says that just like the winter and the summer seasons come and go, happiness comes and goes. And one should not be disturbed by it, but one should simply tolerate it, knowing that this is inevitable. And if one lives in such a life, then we can be happy. Srila Prabhupada makes an interesting statement in this paragraph. He says, when we are actually in the spiritual position, these things will not agitate us. So what does it mean to be in the spiritual position? For a devotee, being in the spiritual position means to see Krishna's hand in everything. When there is happiness, there's Krishna's hand in it. When there's distress, there's Krishna's hand in it. And the devotee has this complete confidence that Krishna has his best interests in hand. So there's actually no good, no bad in a relative sense, happiness or distress. Because a devotee understands that there's three factors in every occurrence. The first factor is an event takes place through some agent of material nature. That's the first cause. The second cause is our karma. And the third cause is Krishna, because nothing moves without the sanction of Krishna. Not a blade of grass moves without the sanction of Krishna. So a devotee is not disturbed in any situation of happiness or distress, because they see it. If some person is disturbing them, that is they're just an agent of material nature. If someone is disturbing them, second level, it's just my karma. In my previous life, I must have disturbed this person. And thirdly, Krishna must have sanctioned that this person disturbs me. And then Krishna wants me to learn some lesson. Krishna wants me to use this experience to grow, to become stronger in my spiritual life. Krishna wants me to use this to become closer to him. So in this way, a devotee does not become neither too happy, overly happy in a situation of happiness, or neither a situation too disturbed in a situation of distress. And this is what means knowledge. Knowledge means to see everything through the eyes of Shastra. People who have no knowledge, they become bewildered. They become disturbed. And life is full experiences of disturbances and some so-called elation. And they cannot remain steady. It's like a roller coaster. Life is a constant roller coaster for people. But one who is in knowledge does not experience that situation. That person experiences peace. The foundation of such consciousness is to see everything as the arrangement of Krishna. So the next quality that Srila Prabhupada describes is aspiring to live in a solitary place and detachment from the general mass of people. And Prabhupada writes, naturally, when one is adapted to the spiritual way of life, he will not want to mix with materialistic men. That would go against his grain. One may test himself by seeing how far he is inclined to live in a solitary place without unwanted association. Naturally, a devotee has no taste for unnecessary sporting or cinema going or enjoying some social function because he understands that these are simply a waste of time. There are many research scholars and philosophers who study sex life or some other subject, but according to Bhagavad Gita, such research work and philosophical speculation has no value. That is more or less nonsensical. According to Bhagavad Gita, one should make research by philosophical discretion into the nature of the soul. One should make research to understand the self. That is recommended here. So actually, Prabhupada is covering the last 4 qualities in that purport, and then Prabhupada summarizes in the end: detachment from the mass of people, accepting the importance of self-realization, living in a secluded place, and philosophical search for the absolute truth. Prabhupada covers that in the last paragraph. And the gist of it is that one who is serious about spiritual life will not mix with materialistic persons. Because when one mixes with materialistic persons, one takes on those qualities. Consciousness is very, very subtle. And he said everybody emits, like a human being, if I'm not mistaken, he emits his consciousness for 5 meters. A cow emits consciousness for 20 meters. Therefore, he said a cow is in the mode of goodness. Whenever one remains in the proximity of a cow, then immediately one comes to the mode of goodness. So in the same way, when one mixes with materialistic persons, their consciousness mixes with our consciousness. And because their consciousness is materialistic, it contaminates our consciousness. And therefore, the scriptures advise that it is better to live in a solitary place than to live with unwanted association. But higher than wanting to live to avoid unwanted association is to seek out higher association of the sadhus and the devotees. And Prabhupada says, because a devotee has no taste for sporting, unnecessary sporting or cinema going, enjoying social functions, he understands this to be a waste of time. One of the qualities of someone who's serious about spiritual life is they have an acute sense of the preciousness of time. And such a person understands that 1 second past, we can never regain that. And they have an acute sense that how precious and short this human form of life is. And because of this consciousness of the awareness of the great benefit of the human form of life and the need to develop our consciousness, a person does not waste time, and Prabhupada says, in sporting, cinema going, and social functions, because it serves the ultimate purpose. It does not serve the ultimate purpose. And if one feels that one is lonely, lacking something in life, without engaging in these activities, Prabhupada says it means that one is not on the spiritual platform. And Prabhupada concludes by in this particular section by talking about research work. One should make research work into the ultimate goal of life. And Prabhupada then goes and says, as far as self-realization is concerned, it is clearly stated here that bhakti yoga is especially practical. As soon as there is a question of devotion, one must consider the relationship between the super soul and the individual soul. The individual soul and the super soul cannot be one, at least not in the bhakti conception, the devotional conception of life. The service of the individual soul to the supreme soul is eternal nityam, as it is clearly stated. And Prabhupada explains the importance of self-realization. Prabhupada explains Uh, Self-realization means understanding the absolute truth in three phases. Vedanti tat tattvas vidas tattvam yat jnanam advyayam, as Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Prabhupada says Bhagavan is the last word in self-realization. Therefore, one who is truly in knowledge, what that person understands Bhagavan. And then Prabhupada concludes by bringing us back to the first point, the first quality. And Prabhupada says, beginning from practicing humility up to the point of realization of the supreme truth, the absolute personality of Godhead. This process is just like a staircase beginning from the ground floor and going up to the top floor. Now, on this staircase, there are so many people who have reached the first floor, the second or the third floor. But unless one reaches the top floor, which is the understanding of Krishna, he's in the lower stage of knowledge. So Prabhupada has explained there's 20 elements of knowledge. One must come to the final floor, which is knowledge of Krishna. Then that is complete knowledge. Otherwise, one simply remains in the lower stages or the lower floors. If anyone wants to compete with God and at the same time make advancement in spiritual knowledge, he will be frustrated. Essentially, what Prabhupada is saying is, unless you come to the platform of bhakti, we will be frustrated because all of the other levels, the level of karma means there is still not full humility. There's still some hostility to Krishna. You'll say, okay, Krishna, let me do what I want to do, and I'll offer you the results. That's austerities. There's still some hostility there. Next level, the Jnani. Okay, Krishna, I'll engage in your devotional service, but you give me liberation. There's still some hostility there. The next level, the level of yogi. Okay, Krishna, you give me some prapta siddhis for my endeavors. There's still some hostility there. So unless one comes to the stage of complete humility means, Krishna, I am your servant. My position is I am your servant. And my duty is simply to render pure, unalloyed service to you. I do not even care if you give me happiness from the service. I just know that if you are happy, Krishna, I will be happy. My duty is simply to serve you. And that requires humility. To come to this position, to recognize I am not the master, I am not the controller. My position, I am simply the servant of the servant of the servant. That requires humility. And then unless one comes to that stage of humility, none of these elements, therefore Prabhupada says, will manifest, or not all of them. The beginning of knowledge is therefore ama nitva, humility. One should be humble and know that he is subordinate to the Supreme Lord. So Prabhupada is making a very telling statement here. He's saying that these 20 elements, they will only manifest when one comes to the point of humility. One should be humble. The beginning of knowledge is humility. One should be humble and know that he is subordinate to the Supreme Lord. Once one devotee asked Srila Prabhupada, Hari Vilas Das, he asked Srila Prabhupada, what does humility mean? And Srila Prabhupada's answer was quite incredible. He said, humility means that you are convinced beyond any doubt that there is nothing in this world, absolutely nothing in this world. Not your money, not your family, not your fame, not your gun, not your education. Nothing will save you except the mercy of Krishna. When you are convinced like that, then you are humble. In other words, what Prabhupada is saying, depend completely on Krishna and no longer rely on any material thing or formula as a backup. We have no other backup Our only situation is we are dependent on the mercy of Krishna in all and every respect of our life. We are completely dependent on the mercy of Krishna. So of these 20 factors that we've just studied, we will notice that 18 of these qualities are common to both devotees and jnanis. However, the 16th item, exclusive devotion to Krishna, is the special qualification of the devotees. And the other qualities, if one has the 16th quality, exclusive devotion to Krishna, all of the other qualities will automatically manifest for those who have devotion. It'll manifest without effort. And the last two qualities, they are especially meant for the jnanis. And the jnanis, they have to make effort to achieve some degree or level of these qualities. So this is the sum and substance of what we've studied today. We've covered a lot. I will pause now and take any questions, comments, or reflections on any of the 20 qualities. You do not have to necessarily only focus on what we did today. You are welcome to give reflections, ask questions, or share realizations on any of these qualities. Was there any quality of these 20 that any of you felt would help you in your spiritual life? Has more meaning?
Prabhuji,
Yes, Mataji.
yes, realize that what humility means today, the real reason behind it, real meaning of humility. We all think humility means different things as per our English literature, but as per this, and I think that's the most important, that leave everything to Krishna, because when we are passing through dualities of life, that's when this humility plays an important part in realizing that whatever Krishna is doing is for our own good, and he has got his own plan for us, and we have to accept into that. So it's a huge eye-opener for me, especially when things sometimes don't go right. So it's very grateful for bringing this to our attention, Prabhuji. And glories to Srila Prabhupada for giving us such a deep meaning for a word like humility.
Yes. Thank you for that realization, Puja Mataji. It's very nice realization. Anyone else would like to share any reflections?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Rita Mataji.
I just want to have a reflection on the number 16, constant and unalloyed devotion to me without undeviating attention. What does that mean in depth? Can you explain that?
Yes, sure.
Please.
Unalloyed devotion means pure devotion, Uttama Bhakti. It means it's not mixed. Sometimes we can mix bhakti with karma, jnana, and yoga. To mix bhakti with this means to have some other desire to please Krishna. Pure bhakti means unalloyed devotion means there is only one desire, Krishna's pleasure. Mixed bhakti means there may be some desire to please Krishna, but there's also maybe a desire for karma, jnana. Jnana means liberation. Yoga means some yoga siddhis. Or karma means is some fruit of result. So that's the definition of unalloyed. And constant means that comes from the definition of Uttama Bhakti, Anya Bilashita Shunyam, means bhakti must be some activity, doing something. Like we know, love is a verb. Love is not a noun. To love somebody means you do something. So bhakti means to always do something, and that
Krishna.
For Krishna, and there's two other elements to it. One is our mood must be favorable,
Yes.
and two, it must be as Krishna desires. Sometimes our mood may be favorable, but it is not as Krishna desires. So this constant unalloyed, there are certain key critical elements to it, which our Acharya says. It's got to be activity, the mood has got to be favorable, and it has to be as Krishna wants it. And it must not be mixed with anything else. That is what constant unalloyed devotion means. And it means, Prabhupada uses very words here, undeviating attention.
Yes, that's the one I want.
That means when you do something for Krishna, it requires attention. We can't be saying we're doing it for Krishna. Recently, I heard something very nice. One devotee was saying that when we chant Hare Krishna, it is like we are holding Krishna's hand. So imagine you are holding someone's hand and your mind is somewhere else.
That happens, Prabhuji, many times with me.
We're not attentive to that person, isn't it? So we have to be undeviating attention. So those words are so wonderfully chosen by Srila Prabhupada.
Yes.
Constant, unalloyed, undeviating attention.
Definitely.
Does that answer your question, Mataji?
Yes, you have answered my question, yes. But it's very difficult, to, you sometimes your bhakti, your attention is there, but your mind can be somewhere else, when especially you're in Gargrishti.
Yeah, we all know that, Mataji. In the stage of sadhana bhakti, we all go through that. But we should have confidence that by constant practice, trying, failing, we will eventually get to the stage where the mind will then become fixed. There'll be no deviation.
Fixed. Yes.
It will happen. It will definitely happen.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Can you please repeat again 3 stages or the 3 parts of the mixed bhakti?
Mixed bhakti means there's 3, the acharyas explain there's 3 things that can mix bhakti. One is karma, the other is jnana, and the third is yoga, meaning desire. Karma means desire for some fruitive result. You do bhakti, but at the same time you have some desire for some other result. Jnana means you have some desire for liberation. And yoga means you have some desire for some yogic powers. That is not the bhakti that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said Krishna pleases Krishna. The only bhakti that pleases Krishna is unmixed, pure. Prabhupada used the word unalloyed. And alloyed metal means you don't take the pure metal, but you mix some other metals in it. Then it's come an alloy steel. But unalloyed steel means it's pure steel. There's no other metals mixed with that steel. So it's an interesting word, unalloyed. That answers your question, Puja Mataji?
Yes. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Sima Mataji.
You just told us about sometimes our mood is favorable, but Krishna is not favorable. So could you please explain it, maybe by giving an example, because it's a little bit confusing to me, that if our mood is favorable to do bhakti of Krishna, how could be Krishna not favorable?
No, it's not it's not as Krishna desires. So I'll give you one simple example, which my Guru Maharaj told one story. So he used to go and visit one life member. And this life member, he was very pious, but he liked to drink tea, chai. Now we know that Vaishnavas don't drink tea because tea is considered an intoxicant. So when the devotees used to go and visit this life member, he used to call his secretary to bring his tea. And before he'd bring his tea, he had a little box with tulsi leaf. And before he drinks his tea, he used to put a tulsi leaf in the tea. And he used to say, Swamiji, look at me. Before I drink my tea, I put one tulsi leaf. So that is an instance where the mood was favorable, but it was not as Krishna desired. Krishna does not desire you must put tulsi leaf in a tea, chai, intoxicant. So that is an example where the mood is favorable, but it's not like as Krishna desires. Both has to be there. Like Kamsa, we know that the ultimate instruction of bhakti is to think about Krishna 24 hours. Kamsa was thinking of Krishna 24 hours a day. But his mood was not favorable. Therefore, it is not considered to be bhakti. So it has to be, two has to be there. Mood has to be favorable, and it has to be as Krishna desires. Now, one may ask, how do I know what Krishna desires in a practical sense? Prabhupada says, we can find out from the spiritual master. If whatever we do is in accordance with the order of the spiritual master, then we can take it given. It is as Krishna desires. But if anything is against the instructions of the spiritual master, and Srila Prabhupada has given all of his instructions in the book, in his books, then we know that is not pure, unalloyed bhakti. Does that answer your question, Seema Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Jolly Mataji.
Doesn't humility cover all 20 elements?
In what sense?
Because if you're humble, you're prideless. You don't have pride. You know, you're humble. You're simple. You're accepting, and if you're humble, you're not going to become violent. You're going to be able to. You're simple, aren't you? You don't expect anything. You don't. And you don't expect anything of yourself or other people. You're just giving of yourself.
Yes, Prabhupada says it's the foundation. It starts what? It's the foundation. It is not, in one sense, it does not really cover everything, so to speak, but it's the foundation. From that humility, everything. But if humility is not there, then everything else is going to be very difficult. So therefore, I read one book recently. It's called "The Ego is the Enemy." If we can just learn to be humble, but this humility, it really is very much intrinsic to bhakti. One cannot truly be humble unless one is surrendered to Krishna. One is non-envious of Krishna. One has no hostility to Krishna. That is not possible. That can only come if one, as Prabhupada explained, what is the meaning of humility? It's the complete conviction that everything we do is dependent on the mercy of Krishna. Thank you for that.
Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Can you repeat that book, please? Where you, the book you've been reading on ego?
It's not written by a devotee, but it's very interesting. It's written by a person called Ryan Holiday.
Okay.
And it's called "The Ego is the Enemy."
Okay.
It's a very interesting book.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So someone has written a question here. One question regarding the consciousness. How to protect our consciousness always? As sometimes it is very difficult when the close family members are not favorable or trying to practice devotional service. That's a wonderful question. Srila Prabhupada said, one certain way we can protect our consciousness is if we chant 16 rounds of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra in the morning. If we chant that Maha Mantra, will protect our consciousness throughout the day. That is, and therefore in this, one of the purpose Prabhupada has chanted as chanted this mantra twice. Okay. Sorry, I just muted everyone because some background. If Priti Mataji, were you wanting to ask a question or make a comment? No. Any other questions or comments anyone has? or reflection?
I've got another question, Prabhuji.
Yeah, sure, Mataji, go ahead.
It might not be related from today's teaching, but I just wanted to know, what are the three modes of nature?
The three modes of nature is Tamagun, Rajagun, and Sattvagun. Is the mode of ignorance, the mode of passion, and the mode of goodness. But above the three modes is what is called the mode of Suddha Sattva, transcendental goodness. And that is the mode, the devotees, to be on the platform of bhakti, we need to come to the platform of Suddha Sattva, pure goodness. So there's actually a fourth, but it's actually not the modes of nature. That is something transcendental.
Okay, yes. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, any other questions or comments or reflections? It doesn't have to be a question. It doesn't have to be just anything that we've been discussing on these 20 elements of knowledge that's stuck in
Hare
your
Krishna,
mind.
Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Jyoti.
I think number 4, tolerance.
Mhm.
I think tolerance is very hard. It's like bearing insults and dishonor.
Mhm.
So, for example, at work, no matter how much you do for anyone, and if no one appreciates, it's fine, because obviously you don't want to get into pride and stuff that, yes, so I'm the best and stuff. But no matter how much you do, some people still have these little insults or jealousy on you, and they try to ruin whatever you're trying to achieve or do. And at some point, it gets to you. Either it comes out in tears or anger or anything, and that just brings you down, isn't it, in your bhakti, because you reacted, you expected. But it's so hard. Number 4, I find, is the most difficult in this 20 points. I don't know,
Mhm.
maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I don't know how to explain, but I think number 4 is the hardest.
Okay, that's a wonderful, honest
Yeah.
life experience that you have, and
Yeah.
all of us know that this is the stage we want to come into, but many times we fail, and then we say, I hope the next time I can be more tolerant. It is a journey, isn't it, Jyoti Mataji?
Yeah,
It
it is. Yeah, I think
But-
number 4 is the hardest step to overcome. Like if somebody insults you or says something totally opposite you, and you just have to literally just ignore, say Hare Krishna, and move on. It's hard sometimes. I mean, sometimes it does get to you. And for someone like
Yeah.
me, my tears just fall down. That's it.
The thing I was trying to say earlier, Jyoti Mataji, the instruction, that's something I try to remember, that in any situation, there are
Yeah.
3 causes. One cause is the agent. So when someone tests your tolerance, you can
Yeah.
just think they are simply an agent. They're not the cause.
Mm.
The second thing you can think is, this cause of this person irritating me, annoying me, is simply a reaction to my karma.
Yes.
And the third cause one can think is, the cause is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna sanctioned that person coming and giving me a poke. So Krishna wants me to learn a lesson.
Yeah.
It's difficult. It's easy to say, it's not as easy to do.
Yeah.
But still, with that, at least that theoretical knowledge, we can try
Yeah.
to develop and cultivate tolerance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Can I just comment on that, please?
Sure.
In my experience, I mean, everybody experienced some of that in life. But when we take it on like that, we're thinking we're the goodie and they're the baddie.
Yeah.
And if you actually think about stepping in their shoe for a moment and think about what they might be experiencing, you can become tolerant. I know tolerance is something we all get heated up and we want to react very quickly instead of stopping and thinking about the other person just as important as you. and that you're not the best, and it's not being done to you. It's amongst you're amongst other people, and these are the kind of emotion it stirs up in each and every one of us. But it's finding a way to manage it. You cannot prevent it. And it's all big lessons, as Prabhu said. You know, it's karma comes into it.
Yes.
For sure. Yeah. Thank you.
There's a question or there's a statement from Emma Mataji here. Being equipoised in distress. If you deal with it just by shedding tears in front of the deities and not express it to others, is that being equipoised? Prabhupada says we are not stone. We have feelings. And shedding tears in front of the deities, is that being equipoised? Yeah, because you are depending on Krishna. I would say yes, Mataji, that you know, yeah, we are going to Krishna in our situation.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Sandeep Prabhu.
I used to struggle with tolerance till I once thought of this sentence, and it helped me.
Yes.
And the result of that was forgiveness and also understanding my prarabdha. It could be because of that. So the sentence that came to my mind was, rather than focusing on the darkness of others, focus on the brightness within myself.
That's beautiful. Instead of focusing on the darkness of others, focus on the brightness within yourself.
Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you.
So that helped me. I wrote it down in front of me. I used to sit among very negative colleagues, and who were constantly attacking me for who I was. But I kept this right in front of my monitor, and it helped me. And later on, those colleagues were found to have mental problems, and they had to go on long leaves. So I stayed tolerant just because of this knowledge that I should not focus on their darkness. Rather, I should go within myself in the brightness of Hare Krishna Mahamantra.
That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. I'm sure we'll all gain from that. There's a question here from Anna. Oh, sorry, Anna. Well, it's a question from someone. I shouldn't say. If I told my family, particularly my children, that they are obstructed to my spiritual progress in Krishna consciousness, they would be distraught. How do I live with that? No, Mataji, in Krishna consciousness, we wouldn't do that. We wouldn't advocate that. We never see anyone as being obstacles to our path. The devotee sees that everyone that comes into our life are there because of our destiny. And everyone who's in our life, Krishna has brought them in our life to teach us some instruction, to help us grow in our Krishna consciousness. So we wouldn't advocate you ever telling your children that they're obstructive to your spiritual progress. It'll be better if you tell them, I see you as my teachers in my Krishna consciousness, how to develop tolerance, how to open my heart to love all living entities. Like that. All right, I've gone over time now by 4 minutes. I think we should stop here. Thank you very much, everyone, for your questions and comments and wonderful participation. Tomorrow we'll have Divya Gaurangi Mataji that's giving text number 13, and we look forward to that. Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to your wonderful service.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.